All right. Good morning, everybody. Get stuff kind of situated here. So I am getting over a cold, or I should say, I'm in the midst of having a cold. So I'm not going to sound the greatest today. I may seem a little bit out of it. It's because I have a cold again. Um, so we'll sort of work our way through this. So a couple things I wanted to mention. We're kind of nearing the end of the course. Things are kind of wrapping up here. um, Not that much longer to go. In fact, the course even ends shorter than I thought it did. So, just kind of going to clue you into a couple things here. Late start classes end earlier. That's not always obvious to students, and they've actually changed the ending dates for some of classes. So, I guess I have to look a little bit closer. So, the dates I have, just be aware these dates for the final things, chapter 10, it says they're all due December 7th is the last day. That is absolutely the last day because technically that's after the course has ended. So I just looked and the course actually ends on the 3rd. So I'll still accept stuff up to the 7th, but just be aware I can't accept anything past that. I have to be turning in grades as soon as I possibly can after that, or I'm gonna have to explain why I'm getting my grades in so late. So here's what I'll say: if you turn everything in by the 3rd, December 3rd, which is 4 days earlier, I will give you a bonus on your project. So you'll get like an extra 10, 15% on your project, which is, significant. So here's what I want to say. Don't turn in a bad project early in order to get the extra 15% because the poorly done project will probably get you a lower grade than if you just waited and turned in, the poor project with the bonus will probably end up being a lower grade than if you do a good job and turn it in by the 7th. Okay, so don't turn in something like, because just because you turned it in on by December 3rd, you still could get an F on your project. All right, I know there's a lot of students, sometimes when I say this, students heap a whole lot of assumptions on what I'm saying. Oh, well, you said you were going to give us an extra 10%, and so, depending, and so they're like, oh, well, I thought that meant I would pass. You can, if your work is a 20%, if you earn yourself 20% on the project, and I give you an extra 10%, you now have a 30% on the project. So don't turn in bad work. But if you're kind of more or less ready to go, turn it in by the 3rd. I can get it graded and get your grade all wrapped up and ready to go, so that when I go to turn grades in, I'll be all ready to just put them all in there. Usually these late start classes end right at the end of finals, but they did something a little weird this semester where the late start classes end even earlier, and I didn't catch that. So that's what's going on. So I will still, like I say, I will still accept these assignments up till December 7th. I cannot accept anything after that. So if it's December 8th at 5 minutes past midnight, you're 5 minutes late trying to turn it in, can't do it. Okay? So make sure you get that stuff in on time. If you want to get the bonus, turn it in early, and I can get you, your bonus credit. Again, a badly done project with that bonus is still probably going to be a failing grade. So make sure that you put in the effort. Don't think, oh, I can do less work now and turn this project in. It's just sort of a motivation to move people along a little bit. So you've got a few things due on the 7th. If you look here, you've got your hypothesis testing, and then here in the next couple of days, I'll turn in I have to make sure all the settings are right, but I'll turn in your project completed. That's where you're going to turn in your video. Okay, a YouTube link or whatever. Make sure that it's it's not some weird format, because if I can't read it, it gets a 0. Okay, so make sure you're ready to have all that in. That's coming pretty soon. But if you get it in by the 3rd, which I think is probably Friday, let's take a look at the schedule here. Academic calendar, instructional calendar. Yeah, so the 3rd is Friday. The 3rd is Friday. So normally these late start classes would go into this week. I don't know why they've been cut off early. I guess now I know in the future to look for that, but I wasn't expecting that. So Technically, this class ends on the 3rd. If you get your stuff in by then, great. You get a little bonus on the project. If not, get it in by the 7th, which is what those dates are. See, I would change it to the 7th, but it's hard because some of you were planning to get it in on the 7th. So if I cut it to the 3rd, that's kind of messed up on my part, right? So I'm not doing that. You can still turn them in on the 7th, but just be aware I can't go any past that because that means I'm already 4 days late turning grades in. And then I'm gonna have to sit there and explain to people about why my grades aren't in. So that's where we're at. Try to get them in on the 3rd, but do a good job. And if you have to, get them in on the 7th. But 7th is the absolute cutoff. Think of 7th as already an extension. I can't extend past that. Okay. So you want to have all your homework done, and you want to have your project submitted to in a good enough way that I'm going to decide you should pass. Remember, the project is not this thing that you should be losing sleep over. It should be a situation where it's your opportunity to communicate to me what you learned in the class and apply it in this educational setting of this survey that we all took. Okay, I do have office hours this week. I've noticed an uptick in people visiting my office hours to ask me questions. That's great. Do not be intimidated. Do not be afraid. I know it's harder, right? If we were on ground, oh, am I getting a weird echo? Sorry. No one mentioned the echo. Probably there was a weird echo, huh? There we go. I think that fixes it. Let me know if there is an audio problem. Always let me know if there's an audio problem so I can fix it. I know it's, there's a lot of students that, they're comfortable asking the teacher a question after class or before class, but then all of a sudden the idea of going into a teacher's Zoom meeting or something like that is sort of intimidating. Don't. It's not worth you taking this class over. Go into office hours, talk to me about your questions, let me help you out. You'll get hopefully you get your passing grade, and then you're done with your math for college, and then you can sort of go on from there. Okay, so that's just a heads up to everyone. I cannot accept anything after the 7th. Won't be done. I'm already pushing it by not having stuff in by the 3rd, but I can't. It's not really fair to shorten you all and tell you, oh, by the way, everything's got to be done by Friday. So you'll have the weekend, but 100% got to be in by the 7th. Okay, with that said, where were we? Where was I? Actually, I can't. Let's see, is that right? Yeah, okay, I can look at that. We don't need that. Where was I? Here we go. Here's Canvas. So make sure you're getting this stuff in. Make sure you get everything done on time. Tomorrow, you have part of your project due. Remember, these little discussions here are a great way for you to pick up project points. They're a lot easier to get here than they are in that final project. When you put them in here, again, it's an exercise to get you using StatCrunch, get you working through the process. I'm fairly generous with the grading on these discussion boards, but in the project, you have to know what you're talking about, or you're going to get marked down. If you say things that are incorrect, or you make conclusions that are not supported by your hypothesis tests or your confidence intervals, you're going to get marked down, right? Because the whole point is you're showing me what you learned. If you're saying things incorrectly, like, oh, a p-value was high, so we accepted the null hypothesis, or we've proven the null hypothesis, then what you just showed me is you don't understand statistics, right? So then you'll lose some grade points for that. It's not like if you say that one thing, your whole project's going to fail, but you'll do poorly on the hypothesis test part of the final exam. Okay, so make sure you're aware of that. I know this, for some reason this semester my classes really like to wait till the last minute to turn stuff in, this class especially, so no one has posted in there yet even though it's due tomorrow. I wouldn't wait till the last minute. We're kind of at crunch time here, so make sure you get that in. Make sure you get your chapter 10 in, and make sure you get those things done, and I'll release the completed project soon so you can turn that in. Okay? Any questions, feel free to ask. Now's kind of the time because you only see me for so much time between now and when everything's due. Okay? So, okay, another important thing. Wednesday's class, super important that you come to class. There's an assignment that I have to put up. It's actually a part of our accreditation. There's a quiz that I have to put up, and we have to report the results to accreditation. When I think it's next year, we have our accreditation review, and there's certain things we have to do in our classes, and we report the results out. So there's a quiz that I have to give you. I'm gonna review that topic that the quiz is on. So basically what happens is they give us a quiz, and then all the teachers, we give this quiz out, right? I'm going to review the topic, right? Remind you how to do this stuff, and then you're going to take the quiz. Okay, so we're just going to have a bit of a review on it. It's an easy way to get some points in this class. It's going to be worth a fair amount of points, right? It's not like as big as the project or anything like that. But I'm actually going to make it part of the project grade, which means this is a nice way to pad your grade for the project, right? So if you're worried like, ooh, I'm a little confused in this class, and I'm afraid that when I turn in my project, it's going to get a low enough grade, I won't pass the class. This is one way to pad that grade. The quiz score that I give on this will be considered part of your project, okay? So I haven't decided how much it's worth, but it will be at least a few of these, right? These project discussions that you turn in, it'll be at least worth 2 or 3 of those. And if you just watch the video, that what we're going to do on Wednesday, if you watch that, then it shouldn't be hard for you, because I'm gonna remind you how to do it all. So you're gonna go, oh, that's right, that's what the R value is, and that's what correlation means, and that's the line of best fit, and here's how to use the line of best fit to make a prediction. We're going to go over all that again, and then you're going to take a quiz on it. Well, if I cover it and review it, and then you take the quiz shortly thereafter, once you feel comfortable with it, you take the quiz and get a good grade, that's going towards your project. That's going to raise that buffer a little bit for your project, so you don't have to sweat quite as much if your project is really bad. That doesn't mean it's going to keep you from failing, but it could help. It could help pad your grade a little bit. So I'll send out a message, right? So please make sure that you're around Wednesday, or at the very least, which it seems like a portion of this class does, at the very least watch the video later and then go through that quiz. It's a big deal that we have to get that done. I have to do that in all of my stats classes. So I'll help you with that on a Wednesday, and then that should also leave us some time to talk about the projects a little bit, which I'll probably do today as well. I went back and looked where we left off with the hypothesis testing last time, and really the part that we didn't get to should all be covered in these lessons. So anything that I didn't specifically talk about should be in those lessons and the assessments that we're working through. So what I was trying to give you was the overall, the subtleties and the main idea of the hypothesis test, and I think we got through that. I believe that I can't think of anything else that I'd want to say on top of that. The only thing is now you have to go in and make sure you know what buttons to push, and you know how to set it up, and you know which thing should be your null and which thing should be your alternative hypothesis. You know when to reject the null hypothesis, and then you know how to make a conclusion based on whether you rejected the null or failed to reject the null. You know how to do all those steps, but those are all in the lessons here, right? So I think we're pretty much there as far as material getting covered. So I'll talk about the other things that you need to know to wrap up the class successfully. So let's see. We talked about due dates, so you should be aware of everything that's coming. We talked about Wednesday's class, where I'm going to cover, and some of you probably remember regression and correlation and stuff. Even if you just go back and look at it for 5 minutes and kind of remind yourself, and then I talk about it on Wednesday, and you're going to go, okay, yeah, I totally got this, and then you should be able to ace that quiz. It's not a tricky quiz. It's literally just do you know how to do these things that are the basics of regression? So if you learned this the first time, and then especially if you listen to me on Wednesday, you'll go, yeah, I know how to do this. Okay? So we'll talk about that. Right, so that stuff's coming due. Make sure your homeworks are caught up, right? Like I've showed you, there's just no room for extensions on anything at this point. You have to get that stuff in because it's already actually going to be a few days past when I'm supposed to collect it. So make sure that's all in. In fact, let me see. Can I release this yet? Let's see. Yeah, let me just edit a few things and then I can then I can submit this so you can start putting your stuff in there. Include all. Oops, we don't need that. That's why I had to change a couple things. Let's see. All right, so each person must turn in their own video project. I'm sure most of you are tired of hearing me say this throughout the entire semester, but I guarantee I will get emails from people who said, oh no, I was with Sarah. I was in Sarah's group, or I was in Jennifer's group. Why did you give me a 0? Just look at Jennifer's video. Nope, each person turns in their own video, okay? The projects are there so you can all help each other out and discuss through things and get things figured out, but not to do each other's work, right? Which is, two things were happening. One is what students were doing was they were dividing up the project and saying, you do hypothesis tests, you do confidence intervals, you do the visuals, and then it was like each person was only doing 20% of the material. Well, that's not good, right? Because then you didn't really learn about hypothesis tests. Someone else in your group did, right? So that was a problem. And then we were getting to the points where I was getting more student complaints about, we have this one person in our group who didn't do anything. And it's like, okay, fine. This is, you're each just going to turn in your own project so that no one is like riding someone else's coattails and letting them do all the work. Plus, you have to do each part of the project. You have to do a hypothesis test. You have to do confidence intervals. You have to do your own visuals. You have to do all that kind of stuff, and then show me that it works. So number one thing right here, right? So no one can tell me they didn't understand this. I mean, I'm going to get emails, but each person must turn in their own video project. Okay, that's as clear as I can make that statement. So, all right, 10-minute minimum. Really, it should be more than 10 minutes. I mean, if you think about, you have like at least 5 major things to cover in this class, and hopefully more, hopefully 6 or 7. But you're going to tell me about your topic. You're going to introduce your questions. You're going to give me the basics of your results, the mean, the median, standard deviation, stuff like that. Real shallow level stuff for your questions. And then you're going to talk to me about what those questions were, what connections are you trying to make. I mean, that right there should be a minimum of 2-3 minutes, maybe more like 4. Then you're going to cover what you've got on screen. You've got your visuals, which what I find works best is, it's a presentation. Show me, this is what you should just do in general when you're having a presentation. You show people a picture, you say text. In other words, like people love PowerPoints, but one thing you're not supposed to do is put up a PowerPoint with like a paragraph on it. Nobody wants to read that stuff. It's just presentation, right? Rules of presentation or guidelines, whatever. But people do like to look at a picture. So you throw a histogram up there and you talk to me about how the data is skewed one way or another. I'm looking at the histogram and going, yeah, she's right. It is skewed. The data is skewed. Look at it. I can see that in the histogram. So you're showing me visuals that back up your evidence. Remember, the whole thing here is you're trying to sell me a narrative. That's the idea. Really, I'm looking for, did this person learn the material? But to do that, you're trying to sell me a narrative and you're trying to give evidence for it. So you're talking to me about, oh yeah, we found for this one, the data was really skewed, and you're showing me a histogram, which shows me that the data is really skewed. I go, yeah, this person knows what they're talking about, and they know how to communicate the statistics to me. Okay. So that's good. You should probably have visuals up the whole time, and then you have your voiceover, but you should always have a picture for someone to be looking at, unless you have a specific thing that you want to put up there. If you want a slide where you've got your questions, that's fine. And I want to be careful here, because when I say slide, You can't turn in a PowerPoint to me or something like that. But what some people do is they use a PowerPoint on their computer when they record the screen. So you make a PowerPoint where you have like each slide that you want to use, and then once you're ready to go to one, you just scroll down, and now your next slide is showing, right? So you don't turn in a PowerPoint to me, but that's how some people do their projects, the visual part of their projects. So it's totally up to you, right? And there's free versions. You can do it on Google. Is it Google? It's not Sheets. It's whatever the Google version is, so that, there's that stuff. You can do that. What you have to turn into me is a video, okay? Right. So, so we're back to kind of timing things. And again, don't sit there, like, time should not be your number one concern for the video, because if that happens, what you're going to be doing is stretching, and it's obvious when you're stretching. Don't do that. I'd rather have you have a 10-minute video that was really, really good than a 15-minute video where I'm like, okay, come on, you're just stretching here. So don't use time as a way of building your project. What you want to do is use time as a way of checking in. If you've done your project and it's 8 minutes long, it's probably not good. You probably have skipped some major topics, or you have not talked about those topics in a deep enough way. Okay, so don't use it to build your don't use time to build your project. Use it as a check to go, can this possibly be good enough? I mean, you've got to talk about confidence intervals. You've got to talk about hypothesis testing. You're going to talk about correlation, regression. When you're talking about regression, show me a scatter plot with the line on it. I always wonder why people don't show me the line. Show me your linear regression, even if it's bad. Show it to me and tell me why it's bad, right? That shows me an understanding of your data. If you can show it to me and say, well, our R value wasn't very good, and also by looking at it, it almost looks like maybe our data is quadratic. So linear regression isn't really appropriate in this setting. Or show me your linear regression with your data points, right? So the scatter plot with the linear regression on there, show me both, and then tell me your R value. Excuse me. Show me your R value and explain why it's a good regression. Either way, see, that's where you're getting to the point where you're showing me understanding. So those, there was other topics in here. If you can't really do that in under 10 minutes and do a meaningful job. I have had students get A's on projects that were like 12, 13 minutes before, but usually the ones that are 10 minutes also are not great. So most of the ones that I find where I'm like, no brainer, this video's an A, are usually more like 15 plus minutes. You don't need to go beyond that. I did have a student last semester turn in a 44-minute video, but you know what? She knew everything. Like, there was not a topic in the class that I could come up with and go, but did you know about this one? Like, she covered everything we did in the class. So in that case, no brainer. You get an A. You just explained everything, like this entire semester. You just explained everything we learned in relation to your questions. Here's an A. Now, honestly, I don't really want to watch a lot of 40-minute videos, so please don't. Try to resist that urge. But don't, I do get videos that are between 15 and 20 minutes. Don't be afraid of turning in something like that if it's good. Okay? Because really, each of those topics, the major topics in the course, you should be able to talk about for 3 to 4 minutes. So it shouldn't be that hard to get to, 13 to 15 minutes around in there. You've done most of the work. So remember, you've got your visuals. I would encourage you, now that you understand stats better, don't just go back and blindly use the stuff that you created before. Go back and look at it and ask yourself, can I do better? Because I'm guessing that most of you can. Okay. Many of you are going to go back and look at the visuals you created and go, ooh, this one I forgot to label. Again, that's a huge red flag. If someone throws up a video or a visual with nothing's labeled and I don't know what it means, that you get marked down for that. So make sure all your graphics are labeled, x-axis, y-axis, title. Put units in there so that I know, are we talking about seconds, minutes, hours, days, months, years, millennia? What is the time frame that you're talking about? Put that kind of stuff in there, and then show me the visuals. But you may look at it now, and now that you're more comfortable with StatCrunch, now that you're more comfortable with statistics, you may go, yeah, wow, I can do better. I can do better than that. Why don't I go back and I'm going to try this histogram, except I'm going to try it with a different bin size, and then maybe it looks better, right? I can tell you, you know, if each thing that you do in your project is just a little bit better than what you have so far, your overall grade is going to be a little bit better, because when I'm watching videos, it's very clear who put time and effort into the semester and who put time and effort into the project, right? And so, don't be afraid to go back. It only takes a few seconds in StatCrunch to make a histogram. So maybe you go, I think I can make a better one. Go back, include that stuff, redo it if you need. Doesn't take very long to redo, and then include it in your project. Put all that stuff in there, right? Make sure you're giving me conclusions. If you do really great work, but you don't ever conclude anything, all you're doing is going through and doing the mechanics of the course. That's a low grade on the project. Because the reality is you're essentially useless. StatCrunch can crunch numbers, so you're not really useful because you can read numbers that StatCrunch tells you, right? And literally any human can read numbers that StatCrunch puts out. The thing that makes you useful in statistics is that you can make conclusions. You can say things about the data. You can say, yeah, it appears that people are working less post-COVID than they were working pre-COVID. This has definitely impacted students' ability to work, or it has impacted their ability to take classes, or whatever it is that you're trying to make. Make that conclusion, the non-technical conclusion. Not technical conclusions are fine. You can leave those in there. You can tell me that you rejected the null or you failed to reject the null, but you can't stop there. You have to go further and say, yeah, we think that the mean units that students are taking is less than it was before COVID, or whatever your conclusion supports. Go in there and make that conclusion. That's the difference between those good conclusions are the difference between a low grade and a high grade. A lot of times, if I see good conclusions that are supported by your evidence, then you're on your way to an A or B project. Okay. Yeah. Show me what you learned. Present your data in a video in whatever format you feel best communicates your work and conclusion. So again, I get lots of different stuff. I see people that create their visuals by hand-drawn visuals. Here's what I'm going to say. If you're going to hand draw your visuals, make them look good. Because if you hand draw a mediocre visual, it looks really bad. Like if you're looking at it and going, is this good enough? It's probably not, right? You're competing with a software that can print to paper. That's what you're competing with. You think you're going to outdo that? And I have had some people who hand draw their graphs and do really good job, but it was obvious they spent some time on those visuals to make them look really good. Really what you should do, just even if you have to screen capture or whatever, or save, you can export your visuals from StatCrunch. Go in there, have StatCrunch make you a nice visual, and then just save that file and use it in your video. Okay. There's screen capture software out there, right? That's free. You can get free screen capture software. I think they have apps for Mac. Windows has options. I don't know if we have any Linux users in the class, but I'm sure Linux has some kind of screen capture program that you can download from I forget what the repository is called for Linux, but from the sorry, my cold's getting the best of me this morning. What was I saying? Oh, right. So what I would highly recommend, just create your visuals in StatCrunch, save them, export them, whatever you need to do to put them in some kind of format where you can record them, and then use them as the visual, and then you're going to do some kind of voiceover. Again, most screen capture software, you can do a voiceover with it. I think, even with the basics on a Mac, you can record yourself over the thing and make a video. I'm sure there's free versions of stuff for Windows as well. So I'm not looking for you to be the next like famous movie director. So I'm not too concerned about how you construct the video. I'm more concerned about being able to grade your work and assess what you learned over the course of the semester. Now, with that said, because sometimes a student will say, well, you said you didn't care how it looked. If your project is put together, if your video is constructed so poorly that I can't really tell if you learned anything, then that's a problem, right? If it's so dark, I can't see what you're talking about, or your audio quality is bad, or, which has happened on occasion, I can't open your file that you send me, something like that, then it's a problem, okay? But just because it doesn't look like like it was edited, like it's ready to be the next episode of some sitcom on NBC or something, like I'm okay with that. But it should look like it was put together in a good enough way to make the case that you're trying to make for your project. Okay, so make sure that you're doing those. I should probably say this. I should probably rewrite this so that people don't get the wrong idea. Present your data in a video. And make sure I have permission to view the video. Projects I cannot. Oops, why is that italicized? Projects that okay. Present your data in a video and make sure I have permission to view the video. If I can't open your video, so projects that cannot be opened will receive a 0. Make sure I can see the thing. If I can't see it, I have to give you a 0 and move on. Okay. So if you send me a YouTube link, which is kind of actually my preference, I find that's the most successful way to do it. Make sure you have that video set in a way where I can view it. Okay. Don't have it set to private where I can't view it. Make sure that if you send me a link, I can view it. Sometimes people send me a video format and it works. I have VLC player, so there's a lot of video formats I can view, but just don't send me something obscure or weird. If I can't open it, then I can't grade it, right? And you get a 0. Don't wait till the last minute. As I've said, there is no time for late submissions. You have to have it in so I can grade it and give everyone a score, okay? Let's see. Yeah, okay. Save and publish. I'm teaching. Okay, let's see. What do we got? A few more minutes. So yeah, I have office hours this afternoon. Make sure if you have questions that you show up and get those questions now. Don't wait, right? It just doesn't work if you're like, well, I have till Friday or I have till next week. I'm going to wait till this office hour. You're better off getting that information you need now and working on it in the next week, not waiting till the last minute. That is a bad way to go about doing things. So make sure you're getting that stuff taken care of. Make sure your homework is all caught up and up to date, all that kind of stuff. And then on Wednesday, again, Wednesday is a pretty important day. It's a big quiz that will affect your grade and it's not going to be like these previous ones where, if you went in, you did an honest attempt, you get you get your credit. This quiz that I have to give, it has to be graded on whether you did it right or not. So we'll go over all that on Wednesday, so it shouldn't stress you out. It's pretty basic stuff that probably you all should know anyways, but on top of that, we're going to review it. Okay, we're going to review it on Wednesdays, and then that's going to help you with your project score. So I'll have all that ready to go Wednesday. Is there any other questions? Anybody have a question for me about anything? No questions, it looks like. Okay, so that's kind of where we're wrapping things up. And I will... so we have about 10 minutes left. I'm going to leave Zoom open. Anyone who wants to hop into Zoom and talk to me, you can do so. Otherwise, that's kind of where we're at with the class. Except for Wednesday, we're kind of at the end of things. So Wednesday, I'll go over that last bit and the quiz associated to it. And then really it's about turning your stuff in. We technically don't even have class meetings next week, although I will be available for people who want to meet me during the times where we don't actually have class. I will have Zoom open in case you want to get in there and talk to me about it. So you can come meet with me during those times if you have any questions while you're wrapping things up. But we technically don't even meet. Okay. So with that said, I'm going to close down the YouTube stream. I am hanging out in Zoom. So anyone who wants to talk to me about their particular project or getting things done, any question, even if it's little, just come talk to me and I'll help you out with that so that it doesn't become a big issue in the next few days. We just get it wrapped up. Okay. Thanks, everybody.